Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today, we're going to be looking at a rather underused and underappreciated skill known as conversion. Conversion is definitely an oddity in the world of Diablo 2. Before we talk about conversion, let's talk about another ability that is very similar to conversion that people actually do enjoy, and that is the assassin skill known as Mind Blast. Now, why am I talking about Mind Blast when I'm talking about conversion? Well, the thing is that what do people use Mind Blast for on the assassin? They use Mind Blast on the assassin to save their lives in dangerous situations. Mind Blast has the ability to convert monsters. It also stuns a little bit, and it kind of knocks monsters back, right? Well, in a dangerous situation, like if you're dying and horribly can't save yourself, one of the easiest things to do on an assassin is a couple Mind Blast, converts a couple targets, and before you know it, you're a lot safer than you were before. It's not really a damage ability. It's not really something that is going to change the way you play your character immensely. But it can save your life in dangerous situations. Got a frog in my throat. Now, that's what we're going to talk about, the conversion ability on the Paladin. It's really no different. If you are in a dangerous situation and you need some, backup or help, the ability to convert the occasional monster is something that is going to come in handy. Let me see if I can actually show you guys this in a way that doesn't end up getting me killed, because I don't have my points spent properly. But let's go ahead and get ourselves surrounded by monsters. So let's pretend we are in a dangerous situation. We're doing something stupid. We end up getting surrounded by monsters like this. All right. One of the things that you can do is you can tap a couple of these monsters with conversion, and you can save your life. That's really all conversion is good for. Like, I hate to say this, but once you convert a couple of the monsters, you're going to use your zeal or your regular attack to kill them. And while they're converted, of course, they're going to be slightly useful to you by dishing out a little bit of damage. But in most situations, you're not really going to rely on them for much more than distraction. So as you can see right now, I'm utilizing them to distract the enemy over here while I dish out damage to the monsters on the side. And I can convert a couple of these archers and utilize them to dish out some damage to the monsters as well. And in this particular way, you can get some interesting effects from conversion, but not as a damage ability. All right, it's not a damage ability, and it's probably never going to be a good damage ability. But it does work very well to save your life in dangerous situations. Is it worth spending points into? Not really. Unfortunately, the only thing that really goes up with conversion is the chance to convert, which is kind of bad. And, it means you have to spam it a little bit less. But even if I dumped 20 points into this skill right now, all it would really do is get me a higher conversion chance. And it actually kind of caps out at a certain point, and it doesn't really go much higher than you would think. At level 35, it's 83%. But if I just 1-point wonder it, it's already at 49% with level 6. And once I get a couple skill points in there, you can see at level 16, it's 72%. So it doesn't really go much higher than what you would get with 1 point and a little bit of plus to skills. And that's really kind of like the thing about conversion that makes it either A, so bad, and B, so good, is that number one, you don't need to put a lot of points into it to get good effect from it. Number two, you don't want to put a lot of points into it to get good effect from it. It is a thing that saves your life, and that's about it. It does have some interesting side effects. So, for instance, whenever you convert a monster, they are given your auras. So one thing that you can do, which is kind of funny, is you can build thorns. And I've always kind of thought that this would be an interesting option for a thorns paladin, is to build high levels of thorns and then grab conversion. And then what you do is you basically just convert the monsters, and then you use your thorns to see if you can kill the monsters. But unfortunately, it just doesn't really work out as well as you would like. the damage output on thorns isn't really good enough to dish out massive amounts of damage to the monsters, and also the regeneration rate of the monsters tends to be a little bit too high to actually make things viable. But in this particular case, if you did have, you know, a relatively large army of monsters, you could get some pretty decent thorns damage out. Honestly, though, it's not really going to get you the amount of damage that you would probably like. And honestly, the conversions don't even last for that long. Except for when you're doing bail runs and somebody converts a bunch of monsters and you're sitting there waiting for the monster to deconvert so that you can kill it. And let's talk about that for a moment. So conversion, while it is a very interesting thing that can potentially save your life, it is also, unfortunately, a very annoying thing that will cause a lot of heartache within freaking online play. One of the silliest things that I've ever seen is, like, we're doing bale waves, and somebody keeps converting all the monsters, so we can't kill the bale waves. And then when the monster deconverts, it stops the next bale wave from spawning, and then you go to try and kill it, and then they convert the monster again. Conversion is one of those odd things that, in the right measure, can actually be significantly useful, but in the wrong measure can be significantly harmful. And what do I mean by in the wrong measure? So, like, let's say, for instance, I went to, I don't know, Canyon of the Magi real quick, and I just converted everything. So let's just convert all the monsters. So let me convert every monster that I can get my hands on. At a certain point, if you convert too many of the monsters, there's no monsters left to fight the other monsters that aren't converted. So it's literally just a giant army of conversions fighting nobody because everything is converted and nothing's doing damage to anything. And it's really difficult to actually get any kind of significant damage output here because all the monsters are on my side. And you'd have to wait for all of them to turn back, of course, so that you can actually get some damage out of it. But what it really comes down to is you got to do it in, you know, in moderation. Too many converts is going to be a detriment. Like, you're not going to be able to kill all of them because they got to wait for them to deconvert. People are going to get upset because they can't actually dish out damage to the monsters. But one or two converts in the middle of a giant group of monsters like this is actually pretty powerful. Even just one converted monster will cause all of the rest of the monsters to converge on that converted monster, buying you a little bit of time and helping you to survive. But if you start converting everything, like literally the whole freaking battlefield, it just gets silly, and then you've got to wait a really long time for those monsters to deconvert so that you can kill them. It's also kind of silly to talk about this, but when a converted monster kills something, I don't believe you get EXP. And I forgot to look this up in advance, so let's go take a look together. So conversion, chance to convert on attack only applies to normal and minion monsters. Of course, it will not apply to the champions. While converted monsters are affected by friendly auras, poison damage, open wounds that has not expired before conversion will remain afterwards. A monster can be cursed with amplified damage before conversion to maximize damage returned by thorns. Interesting. When converted, none of the monsters can spawn or heal, which is another interesting thing. So any monsters that have healing effects or can spawn other monsters, like, you know, maggots can make babies, or the little evil, like, flesh beasts can make little baby flesh beasts. None of that can actually happen when a monster is converted. You can not gain experience from monsters that are killed while converted. So if a monster dies while they are converted to your side, you don't get any EXP from them. But monsters killed by the converted monsters will give you EXP. So it also kind of lowers your EXP down if any of the monsters are killed by another monster during the conversion, which is unfortunate. The converted monsters will not follow you either, which is kind of weird. Like, I guess they're on your side, but they just kind of wander around, which is a little strange. Auras will still apply to the converted monsters even after 2 seconds after it expires. So sometimes your ridiculous fanaticism aura or something that you have on your character, which is being applied to the converted monster, can come back to bite you in the butt as the monster deconverts and then hits you in the face with that damage bonus, which can be pretty ouchy in a lot of situations. I've also seen some other situations where, like, various buffs like shout, battle orders and things like that can be applied to converted monsters, which can make things really spicy. If you have a barbarian who is particularly wanting to spam his abilities, you can actually make like a super tank minion, a super tank freaking little bastard, because like say you have a minion of an elite, he has a lot of good buffs, you convert him, he comes over to your side, the freaking barbarian buffs him up, and then he converts back. He gets to keep those buffs, and then you get to fight a monster that's like super tank, which is kind of weird. Conversion effects are definitely one of the weirder things within Diablo, and it's definitely one of those things that a lot of people kind of avoid. But I will say that as a one-point wonder, conversion actually works quite well to keep you alive in dangerous situations. In hardcore specifically, converting a single or maybe 2 monsters can definitely go a long way to help you disseminate some of the damage away from yourself. So when you're a melee character and you're in a large group of monsters and you're trying to survive, a lot of the times what's happening is you're basically just all getting wailed on yourself. So everybody is wailing on you. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. But if you have at least 1 or 2 other targets in there with you, now everything isn't wailing on you specifically. So you can help spread that damage out a little bit so you're not the only target that's getting wailed on. And in this way, conversion can be absolutely useful for survival reasons. However, I would never recommend using it as a main ability. I think I've already talked too much on conversion. I think we've covered just about everything you can with this particular ability. And I think we're done. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watch my videos, even when we're just talking about conversion. And as always, keep watching.